She came straight from her shift. Ketchup stain on her sleeve. Cheapest seat on the plane. Nobody looked at her twice. Then both pilots went down. 287 people. 11 minutes from a mountain. She stood up. And somewhere above the Sierra Nevada, an F-22 pilot heard one word on the radio. One call sign. And lost control of his aircraft. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. My name is Ryan Hayes. I work for the NTSB. National Transportation Safety Board. Based in Los Angeles. 3 months ago, American Airlines Flight 1947, LAX to San Francisco, sent out an emergency call over the Sierra Nevada mountains. 287 passengers. Both pilots down. 11 minutes from a mountain. A woman landed that plane. A waitress from Santa Monica. Here is the problem. I cannot find her. Her name is Casey Morgan. She is not in any FAA pilot database. Not in any military record. Not in any federal file in the United States. Casey Morgan, officially, does not exist. But she landed a Boeing 737. And the F-22 fighter pilots who flew beside her, they knew her call sign. This is what I have put together. This is the file. She does not exist in any record. But 287 people are alive because of her. Someone explain that to me. Blue Sky Diner, Santa Monica, California. 6 hours before the incident. The last time anyone saw Casey Morgan before the flight, she was clearing tables. Blue Sky Diner. Ocean Avenue. Santa Monica, California. She worked the breakfast shift that day. I spoke to her manager, a man named Dave Kowalski. He has run that diner for 11 years. Casey was my best server. 3 years she worked here. Never missed a shift. Not once. She never talked about herself. I didn't even know she had a mother until she asked for the day off to go see her. She said her mom was sick. Up in San Francisco. She seemed tired that day. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind of tired that comes from carrying something heavy for too long. She left at 2 in the afternoon. She still had her uniform on. Ketchup stain on the left sleeve, she was always getting those. She said she'd wash it when she got back. She didn't come back. Blue Sky Diner, 2 p.m. Casey was moving fast between tables. Her hair was up in a messy bun. She had on her blue diner uniform, and yes, the ketchup stain was already there. She'd gotten it that morning when a bottle slipped. Except it didn't hit the floor. She caught it. One hand. Without looking. Fast. Clean. Like catching something falling was automatic for her. A regular customer, an older woman named Pat, was watching. Casey, you going somewhere today? Casey smiled. Small. San Francisco. Mom's sick. You flying? Something moved across Casey's face. Fast. Gone in a second. Yeah, she said. Flying. She had not been on a plane in 3 years. She bought the cheapest ticket. Middle seat. Row 17. Casey sat in the gate area with her backpack between her feet. Around her, business travelers on laptops. Families with strollers. A group of college kids taking photos. Nobody looked at her twice. A man in a suit next to her was reading a news article on his phone. The headline was about military budget cuts. Casey glanced at it. Looked away. The gate agent called for boarding. First class. Then elite members. Then rows 20 and above. Casey didn't move until they called row 17. She walked down the jetway slowly. At the door of the plane, she stopped for exactly 1 second. Just 1 second. Her hand touched the frame of the aircraft door. Her eyes moved, quick, over the fuselage. Old habit. You check the aircraft before you board. You always check. Then she walked in. Found her seat. Middle row. No window. When the plane took off from LAX that afternoon, Casey did not look out the window. She looked at her hands. 3 years earlier, USS Carl Vinson, South China Sea, night. Casey in full flight gear. Dark. The carrier deck moving under her feet. Her co-pilot beside her. Captain Derek Walsh. Both of them suited up for a night mission. Derek's voice was low. Serious. Storm, the mission plan changed. Command wants us to hit the second set of coordinates. Casey looked at the map. She looked at it for a long time. Derek. Those coordinates are in a populated area. That's a civilian zone. I know. The intelligence report on that location is wrong. I can see it. The data doesn't match. I know that too. Then you know what this is, she said. That's an illegal order. Derek didn't speak. What do we do? He asked. Casey looked straight ahead. We do the right thing. We always do the right thing. They refused the strike. They flew back to the carrier. 2 days later, Casey was called before a closed military hearing. An admiral sat across a table from her. His voice was flat and cold. Lieutenant Morgan. You refused a direct order in the field. Whatever your reasons, this cannot go unanswered. Casey said nothing. You have 2 options. Take a quiet discharge. Go home. Live your life. Tell no one anything. Or, we go to a full court-martial. We put everything on the table. Your career ends either way. But one of those options is much worse. Casey looked at the wall behind him for a long time. I'll take the discharge, she said. 3 weeks later, she heard through a friend still serving. The Navy had told Derek Walsh that Casey died in a training accident. A fake death. Her entire file, erased. Casey Morgan, officially, ceased to exist. She moved to Venice Beach. Got a job at Blue Sky Diner. Told no one who she was. She had accepted the discharge, and the silence, to protect Derek. If she had fought back, they would have gone after him too. He had been in that cockpit. He had heard those orders. She couldn't let them destroy him for it. So she disappeared. And Derek put flowers on an empty grave. 3 years. A decorated combat pilot. Serving ketchup and eggs on Ocean Avenue. The Navy erased her. I kept asking myself, why didn't she fight? The answer is in the next tab. She chose silence to protect someone. I just didn't know who yet. I interviewed 14 passengers. 3 flight crew. 2 air marshals. Every single one of them said the same thing about Casey Morgan. She didn't look scared. Not once. One passenger said something I keep thinking about. He said, she wasn't calm because nothing was wrong. She was calm because she had been in worse. Harold Simmons is 67. Retired Marine. 31 years of service. He was flying to San Francisco for his granddaughter's birthday. I'm retired military. I know how soldiers sit when they get on a plane. They scan the exits. They check the emergency card. They note who's around them. It's automatic. You can't turn it off. This woman sat down next to me, and she did all of it in about 4 seconds. Didn't even think about it. Just did it. Messy hair, ketchup stain on her uniform, looked like she'd worked a long shift. But she sat down like someone who was checking a cockpit before a mission. I didn't say anything. But I noticed. When the flight attendant came on the intercom asking for any pilot, I looked at her. She already had her seatbelt off. I stood up. Moved into the aisle. Nobody was getting past me. I don't know who she was. I didn't need to know. I know what she was. That was enough for me. Amber Johnson is 29. From San Jose. She had been a flight attendant for 2 years. This was her first real emergency. Captain Bradley collapsed at 4:18 p.m. Stroke, we found out later. First Officer Park, Lisa, she froze. Just completely froze. Hands on the controls, not moving, not responding. She was in shock. I grabbed the intercom. I said, "Is there a pilot on board? Any trained pilot, please come to the front of the aircraft immediately." And this woman stood up. Row 17. Ketchup on her sleeve. Hair falling out of a bun. She looked like she just got off a long shift, because she had. She walked toward me. No running. No panic. Like she was walking over to take someone's coffee order. I said, "Do you know how to fly?" She looked past me at the cockpit door. She said, "Move Lisa out of the left seat. Do it gently. She's in shock." She didn't answer my question. She just told me what needed to happen. And somehow, that was the answer. Casey pushed open the cockpit door. Captain Bradley was slumped to the right, unconscious. First Officer Lisa Park was in the left seat, both hands on the yoke, staring straight ahead. Not moving. Not processing anything. Her face was completely blank. Casey knelt beside her. Voice quiet. Soft. "Hey. Lisa. Look at me." Lisa's eyes moved slowly. She looked at Casey. "What's your name?" "Lisa." "Lisa, I need you to let go of the controls. Can you do that for me? Just let go." Lisa's hands released the yoke. They were shaking badly. Casey moved her gently to the jump seat and buckled her in. Carefully. Like she'd done it before. She put her hand on Lisa's arm for 1 second. "You did everything right," Casey said quietly. "You kept your hands on the controls. You didn't let go. That matters. Okay." Lisa looked at her. Eyes wet. She nodded once. "Stay in that seat. Talk to me if you can. I may need you." Lisa straightened slightly. Something small came back into her face. Not confidence, not yet. But the first edge of it. "I can do that," Lisa said. "I know you can." Casey turned to the instrument panel. Amber was standing in the cockpit doorway, watching. She would later say, that was the moment she stopped being scared. Not because the situation was better. The situation was exactly as bad as it had been 10 seconds earlier. But Casey had just talked a frozen first officer back from the edge in 30 seconds flat. Amber thought, whoever this woman is, we are going to be okay. Then she sat in the left seat. She looked at the instrument panel. 8 years since she had sat in a cockpit. But her hands found every gauge automatically. Her eyes read the full picture in 6 seconds. Altitude, 18,000 feet. Airspeed, falling. Heading, drifting toward the Sierra Nevada. Time to terrain impact, 11 minutes. Autopilot, offline, lightning strike 8 minutes earlier. Fuel, 38 minutes. Passengers, 287. She picked up the radio. Completely calm. Like ordering coffee. NorCal Center, American 1947. Mayday. 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 Full crew down. I have the aircraft. Passenger, former military pilot. We are in a slow spiral descent. Sierra Nevada terrain, 11 minutes on this heading. No autopilot, lightning took it out 8 minutes ago. Fuel 38 minutes. 287 people on board. I need vectors immediately. Over. Mike Torres has worked air traffic control for 20 years. He has heard everything. Emergencies, diversions, aircraft in trouble. He said this one stopped him cold. She came on frequency and her voice was, I don't know how to say this exactly, it was the calmest voice I had ever heard on a Mayday call. Not forced calm. Real calm. Like she had been in worse situations and gotten through them. I pulled up her name in the FAA system. Nothing. Ran it again. Nothing. She was not in any database I could access. I turned to my colleague and said, get me the military liaison. And get me NAS Lamore on the line. Then I got back on frequency and I just, worked the problem. Because that's the job. But I'll tell you this. In 20 years, I have never talked to a ghost before. She was a ghost. A ghost who could fly. Casey, I'm Mike. Oakland Center. I have you on radar. You are not alone. Tell me what you need. 1,100 hours in an F/A-18. Not one record in any database. Mike Torres would later say he'd never talked to a ghost before. She was a ghost who could fly. 4:31 p.m. This is where the file gets complicated. NAS Lamore scrambled two F-22 Raptors at 1:47 p.m. Pacific. They crossed the Central Valley at supersonic speed and reached AA 1947 in under 12 minutes. The lead pilot was Captain Derek Walsh. Call sign, Anvil 1. I have the radio transcripts. I have the cockpit recordings. What I was not ready for, was what happened when the F-22 pilot heard the call sign. Captain Derek Walsh attended Casey Morgan's memorial service 3 years ago. He put flowers on her grave. American 1947, Anvil Flight. NAS Lamore. We have you on visual. 2 F-22s on your wings. State your situation. Casey ran through the full situation report. Precise. Military style. Altitude, airspeed, heading, fuel, souls on board. Every word clean and exact. Derek listened. Then. Copy 1947. Former naval aviator, what aircraft type? F/A-18 Super Hornet. VFA, 14 top hatters. USS Carl Vinson. Derek's voice tightened slightly. A trained ear might catch it. VFA, 14. What years? Casey, does that matter right now? American 1947, I need your call sign. For coordination. Casey looked through the windshield. The Sierra Nevada was ahead of them in the late afternoon light. Mountains she had flown over 100 times in another life. In a different uniform. She took one breath. Storm. Derek's wingman, Anvil 1, you okay? No response. Anvil 1, your altitude is. Derek's F-22 drifted 200 feet low. His wingman, Anvil 1, altitude. Derek pulled back. Recovered. Regained altitude. For the first time in his career, his hands were shaking. I'm good. I'm good. He was not good. He was looking at a Boeing 737 with a ghost at the controls. His desk at NAS Lamore. A photo in a small frame. Casey in flight gear, standing on the carrier deck, squinting into the Pacific sun. Laughing at something Derek had just said. He couldn't remember what anymore. He had kept that photo for 3 years. Every morning he sat down at that desk, he saw it. He never moved it. Never turned it over. He told himself it was to remember her. The truth he had never said out loud to anyone, was that something about it never felt right. The memorial service had felt wrong. The story had felt wrong. Casey Morgan did not make mistakes in the air. Training accidents did not happen to pilots like her. But the Navy had given him a file. A report. An official cause of death. He had believed it because he needed to believe something. He was wrong. She was on his frequency. She was flying a 737 over the Sierra Nevada. She was alive. A ghost he had known. Had flown with. Had watched take off on the worst mission of both their lives. A ghost he had been told was dead. His voice was the voice of a man using every bit of military training he had to stay together. Losing. American 1947, Storm. This is Anvil 1. This is Derek Walsh. I was at your memorial service. 3 years ago. March 14, NAS North Island. I put flowers on your grave, Casey. They told me you were dead. Training accident. I believed them. I should not have believed them. She gripped the yoke a little tighter. 287 people behind her. Mountains ahead. Derek Walsh on her frequency. She had taken the discharge to protect him. If she had fought back, made noise, pushed back against the Navy, they would have gone after Derek too. He had been in that cockpit. He had heard the orders. He had refused them with her. She had stayed quiet so he could keep his career. Keep his life. Keep flying. He never knew. He thought she was dead. He had put flowers on a grave. And she had been serving pancakes 400 miles away. She could feel all of it trying to come in at once. She let none of it in. Not yet. 287 people. Mountains. 11 minutes. Flat. Steady. Empty of everything except the job. Derek. I will explain everything. After I land this plane. Right now, I need the Sacramento executive approach information. And I need you on my right wing. Can you do that? 4 seconds of silence. Derek Walsh, putting himself back together. Piece by piece. On your right wing. Same as always. Same as always, Storm. I have the cockpit recording. I have played it 47 times. Every time I get to Derek saying, same as always, I have to stop for a minute. I'm not ashamed of that. Moving on. She accepted her discharge to protect him. He spent 3 years thinking she was dead. She spent 3 years serving him pancakes. Without him ever knowing. I filed 17 FOIA requests. 17. This is what they gave me. Lieutenant Casey Morgan. F/A-18 Super Hornet pilot. VFA, 14 top hatters. USS Carl Vinson. 1,100 combat hours. Commendations, redacted, redacted, redacted. Incident, redacted, mission parameters disputed by Lieutenant Morgan. Subject refused direct order sighting, redacted. Subsequent review, redacted. Administrative discharge, date redacted. Status post-discharge, deceased, training accident, redacted. File closed. File closed. She's not deceased. She was serving eggs at a diner on Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica, California. Someone in the United States Navy officially declared a living person dead. I want to know who. I want to know why. And I want to know what order she refused, that was worth erasing her entire life. The order she was given that night over the South China Sea, it was a strike order. Hit a set of coordinates. Execute the mission. Casey looked at those coordinates. She looked at the intelligence data behind them. And she saw what the officers back at command had missed, or chosen to ignore. Those coordinates were in a populated civilian area. The intelligence report was wrong. She could see it in the data. She identified it in the field. She refused to fire. She saved lives that night. No one will ever know exactly how many. But the Navy couldn't admit the intelligence was bad. They couldn't admit the order was wrong. So Casey became the problem. A pilot who refused orders. A problem that needed to go away quietly. She knew if she fought, if she made noise, Derek would be pulled into it. He was her co-pilot. He was there. He had heard the same orders and made the same choice. She couldn't let them destroy him. So she took the quiet discharge. She went to Venice Beach. She served coffee. She waited. The Navy declared her dead and closed the file. I have been doing this job for 22 years. I have never been this angry at a file before. I want to be clear about something. I am an investigator. I work with facts. I do not get emotional about files. That is not the job. But I have a daughter. She is 24. She just finished college. She wants to join the military. And I sat at my desk reading this file, reading about a woman who flew 1,100 combat hours, who saw an illegal order and said no, who protected her co-pilot with 3 years of silence, and I thought about my daughter. I thought, what kind of country does this to people like Casey Morgan? What kind of institution looks at someone who did everything right, and erases them? I called my supervisor that night. I told him I needed more time on this case. He asked why. I said, because someone needs to find her. And someone needs to fix what was done to her. He told me I had whatever time I needed. I got back to work. She refused an illegal order. She saved innocent lives. And the Navy declared her dead for it. The approach to Sacramento Executive Airport. Runway 02. 7,000 feet of runway. That is enough for a 737. Barely. Weather, low clouds moving in from the coast. Wind gusting to 22 knots. Casey Morgan had never landed a commercial aircraft before. What follows is the cockpit recording. Word for word. Mike Torres, Casey, Sacramento executive is ready. Runway 02. Emergency truck standing by. Wind from the north at 18, gusting 22. You are cleared direct. Come down when you're ready. Casey, copy Mike. Starting descent now. Derek, walk me through the flap settings on this aircraft. The 737 is different from an F/A-18. Derek, and his voice was the voice of a man using 3 years of grief and relief and anger and turning all of it into one single job. Flaps 1 at 210 knots. Flaps 5 at 190. Flaps 15 at 170. Gear down at 1,500 feet. Flaps 30 on final approach. You've got this, Storm. Call out every step. Casey, calling each one. Flaps 1, set. Speed 208. Flaps 5, set. Speed 187. Clean. Precise. Each call like a word in a language she never forgot. Amber Johnson was walking the aisle. Checking seatbelts. Checking faces. A man in row 12 grabbed her arm. Is she really just a waitress? Amber thought about the moment Casey had walked into that cockpit. How she had moved Lisa out of the seat. Gently. She's in shock. How she had looked at the instrument panel and read the whole thing in 6 seconds. She's our pilot, Amber said. That's all you need to know. Harold Simmons was sitting with his arms crossed, watching the cockpit door. The young man in the window seat looked over at him. The kid couldn't have been more than 22. Are you scared? The kid asked. Harold didn't look at him. Of what? Of, all of this. Harold, son, the woman flying this plane has been in worse. I'd bet my pension on it. And I have a good pension. The young man looked at the cockpit door for a long time. Then he said, "How do you know?" Harold turned and looked at him properly for the first time. "Because of the way she stood up," Harold said. When the flight attendant asked for a pilot, this woman didn't hesitate. Didn't look around to see if someone else would go first. Didn't ask questions. She just stood up and walked forward. "You know what that is?" The young man shook his head. "That's someone who has been in bad situations before. Many times. And gotten through every single one. She didn't stand up because she was brave. She stood up because it didn't occur to her not to." Harold went quiet for a moment. "I served 31 years. Marines. 3 deployments. I met maybe 10 people in my whole career who had that quality." He looked back at the cockpit door. "She's one of them. A microburst. Northern California coast weather. Comes fast. No warning. The plane dropped 120 feet. In less than 2 seconds. The cabin screamed. Amber was thrown sideways into the overhead bins. Harold grabbed the seat in front of him with both hands. Coffee cups flew. Bags fell from overhead. A child somewhere in the back rows was crying. Mike Torres, on his feet at Oakland Center, Casey. Derek, Storm. And Casey. Full power. Immediate. Every instinct she had ever built in 1,100 hours of combat flying, every night landing on a carrier deck in Pacific swells, every emergency drill, every time she had flown through actual storms in an actual fighter jet. Right now. Right here. She fought the plane back up. 400 feet. 350 feet. 290 feet. 250 feet, level. Back on the correct approach path. Mike Torres, sitting back down slowly, hand flat on his chest. "You're on glide path, Casey. Looking perfect. 3 miles out." Derek, and this was not military anymore. This was just Derek Walsh talking to his partner. "That was the best recovery I have ever seen. And I have seen you do a lot of incredible things." Sacramento Executive Airport ahead. 2 lines of runway lights cutting through the California dusk. Derek, gear down. 3 green. Flaps 30. 1 mile out. Speed 145. Looking perfect. Your airplane, Storm. Your airplane. Casey heard those 2 words. Your airplane. In naval aviation, when a co-pilot says those words, it means, I trust you completely. The aircraft is yours. Do what you were trained to do. Derek had said those exact words to her over the Pacific Ocean, 8 years ago, the first time they flew together. He was saying them again now. Something that had been locked inside Casey Morgan for 3 years opened. Just slightly. She said quietly. My airplane. Wheels down. Sacramento Executive Airport. Smooth. The smoothest landing of the day on that runway. Reverse thrust. Brakes. 7,000 feet of runway. She used 4,200. The plane stopped. Then, from seat 17B. Harold Simmons. Retired Marine. 31 years of service. He started clapping. Slow. Deliberate. The way you clap when something has earned real respect and you want the person to know it. Then the row behind him. Then the row behind that. Then 287 people. Oakland Center. American 1947. On the ground. Sacramento Executive. 287 souls. All safe. Thank you, Mike. Mike Torres, for the first time in 20 years, did not mute his frequency before he responded. His entire team at Oakland Center heard him say. Thank you, Casey. God, thank you. 3 months after the incident. Casey Morgan left Sacramento Executive Airport on the night of the incident. She spoke to first responders. She gave a short statement. She said she was fine. She declined every media interview request. Then she left. I have been trying to find her since. Her apartment in Venice Beach, empty. She moved out 3 weeks after the flight. No forwarding address. Blue Sky Diner in Santa Monica, she never came back. I found Derek Walsh. He filed his own full statement with the Navy the morning after the flight. He wrote down everything. The mission. The illegal strike order. What Casey had done. What the Navy had done to her afterward. He named names. He brought documents. The Navy is now under congressional investigation. Because of Derek Walsh. Because of what he finally said. 3 years late. But he said it. Lieutenant Casey Morgan refused an illegal strike order that would have killed civilians. She was right to refuse it. I said nothing when they discharged her. That is my failure. Not hers. She protected me with her silence. I did not deserve that protection. She deserves her record back. She deserves her medals back. She deserves everything they took from her. I will not stop until she gets it. I have one last thing to add to this file. 2 days ago, I received an anonymous letter. No return address. Santa Monica postmark. 1 page. Handwritten. It said, Detective Hayes. I read about your investigation. Thank you for looking. Please stop looking. I'm fine. I found a new diner. Better tips. Tell Derek, we're even. Tell the 287 passengers, it was my pleasure. Tell the Navy, I'm not done yet. Storm. I closed the file this morning. Then I opened it again. Because Casey Morgan is still out there. And the Navy still owes her everything. Case status, active. I'm not done either. Somewhere in California, a woman is serving coffee. No name tag. New diner. New town. Same ketchup-stained uniform. She never talks about herself. She tips the kitchen staff out of her own tips. She remembers every regular's order without writing it down. Sometimes, when the diner is quiet in the early morning, she goes outside. Stands in the parking lot. Looks up. Not at the sky exactly. At something past it. Something she knows is still there. Waiting for her. The congressional investigation into the Navy is now in its 2nd month. Derek Walsh testified for 6 hours. He brought everything. A senator asked him, why did it take 3 years to come forward? Derek looked at his hands. Because I thought she was dead. And I thought the least I could do was let her rest. Then she landed a 737 over the Sierra Nevada on a Tuesday afternoon. So I figured, she's not resting. Time to do my job. After Derek's testimony ended, a reporter outside the hearing room asked him one more question. Captain Walsh, if Casey Morgan is watching this, what would you want to say to her? Derek stopped walking. He stood there for a moment. Just stood there, in the hallway of the Capitol building, in his dress uniform, 3 years of guilt and grief sitting on his shoulders. Then he said, I'd say, I'm sorry it took me this long. I'm sorry I believed them. I'm sorry I put flowers on a grave instead of looking for the truth. And I'd say, the sky is still there, Casey. It's been waiting for you too. Same as always. He walked away. The reporter did not ask another question. Nobody did. They called her a waitress. They called her nobody. They erased her name from every record. They put flowers on an empty grave. She served coffee and waited. Because Storm doesn't panic. Storm doesn't break. Storm doesn't disappear, not really. Storm just waits for the right moment to show you exactly what it is. 287 people know now. The rest of the world is catching up.